Okay, let's just dive right into this. Today we're exploring a monumental shift that literally affects absolutely everyone with a job, a bank account, or a retirement plan. We're looking at whether the explosive rise of artificial intelligence is charting our economy toward a catastrophic collapse, or if it's actually paving the way for unprecedented infinite abundance. Welcome to this explainer. I am so excited to guide you through these fascinating yet highly conflicting visions of our very near future.
That's the trillion-dollar question right there, isn't it? And to really answer it, we're going to break down two completely contradictory economic forecasts derived from some really recent industry research. On one hand, you've got a prediction of imminent economic disaster. But on the other hand, another group looks at the exact same technological advancements and sees an unparalleled boom. Now, we aren't here to pick a side today. Our job is to unpack the data, look at exactly what these models are predicting, and give you the tools to understand what might be coming our way.
So, here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, the AI economic divide. Second, the 5 phases of doom. Third, the intelligence boom counter-argument. And finally, some practical steps to protect your finances.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the AI economic divide and the stakes in 2026. Let's look at the actual data driving all this economic anxiety right now, because this isn't just theory. This is based on what massive corporations are signaling today. And what's really staggering here is the sheer consensus among all these major players. You have the CEO of Anthropic stating that AI could wipe out nearly half of all entry-level white-collar jobs. Salesforce is claiming AI is already performing up to 50% of the company's workload. Over at Stanford Labs, they're seeing tangible drops in entry-level hiring by about 13%. And perhaps most wild of all, Microsoft's AI chief gives it just 18 months before white-collar work is fully automated. When the exact people building this technology are sounding the alarm like this, well, it demands our attention. So all these data points kind of smash together into this highly controversial paper titled The 2028 Global Intelligence Crisis. This paper warns that because of this rapid automation, the S&P 500 could peak in October 2026 and then suffer a brutal 38% drop, tumbling down to roughly 3,500. We're talking about a massive destruction of wealth in less than 2 years. It would basically wipe out all the gains we've seen since before ChatGPT even launched.
Moving along to Section 2, the 5 phases of doom, the anatomy of a collapse.
Okay. Let's break down exactly how the authors of that paper see this 2026 collapse unfolding. Because they don't just predict a generic crash, they map out this highly specific, frankly terrifying 5-phase sequence. It kicks off with Phase 1, software collapse. This is where AI gets so insanely good that a single developer can replicate expensive corporate software in just weeks, causing businesses to completely slash their tech spending. That quickly bleeds into Phase 2, zero friction, where AI agents start handling all our transactions, insurance, travel, real estate, for under a 1% commission, totally bypassing traditional credit card fees. And that brings us to the most dangerous tipping point of all, Phase 3.
This perfectly captures the doom spiral phase. Just picture this for a second. Imagine a Salesforce manager making $180,000 a year who suddenly loses their job to automation. They end up driving for Uber to make ends meet at around $45,000 a year. Now multiply that scenario by hundreds of thousands of highly qualified workers. Suddenly, they are completely slashing their spending, right? And since the top 10% of earners drive more than half of all U.S. consumer spending, this massive drop in discretionary income spirals the whole economy into a full-blown recession by 2027.
$2.5 trillion. That is the size of the private credit market, and that's exactly what this domino effect hits next in Phase 4. See, billions have been loaned to software companies under the assumption that their revenues would simply never drop. Take Zendesk, for example, which was bought out using billions in loans. But here is the really crazy twist. A lot of these buyouts were actually funded using life insurance companies. That means everyday pensions, annuities, and retirement accounts are suddenly put at massive risk. And if those crack, well, Phase 5 hits. Everyday workers start defaulting, and the mortgage market suffers mass foreclosures.
It's a completely bleak picture, isn't it? But hold on a second. What if this whole narrative has it backward? What if it's missing the human element entirely? Literally just hours after that Doomsday article went live, a counterpiece was published called The 2028 Global Intelligence Boom. And what's fascinating is they looked at the exact same technological advancements, but came to the complete opposite conclusion.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the intelligence boom counter-argument, the case for abundance.
The boom scenario argues that the Doomsday models have one really fatal flaw. They assume human beings simply won't adapt, compete, or innovate. They just assume we're all going to lose our jobs and sit on our hands. But history gives us a super powerful counterargument here. Way back in 1964, a group of experts warned President Johnson that automation would create permanent mass unemployment. Congress even created a whole commission to study it. But the reality? The tech created way more jobs, and unemployment actually dropped from 5.5% down to 4%. We saw the same thing in the 2000s. People totally panicked that the internet would destroy the workforce overnight. And sure, while some sectors like travel agencies took a hard hit, the overall shift took 15 to 25 years, not 2 to 3 years, and it created entirely new industries we couldn't have even imagined at the time.
Furthermore, the Boom paper points out a massive, frankly overlooked economic benefit. Think about how much the average American household spends on services whose main value is just navigating complexity. I'm talking about tax prep, legal paperwork, booking agents. If AI cuts those service costs dramatically, that money doesn't just disappear. It effectively gives the average person a massive $4,000 to $7,000 tax-free raise every single year. That's a huge deal. That is money going right back into consumer spending, creating incredible new avenues for economic growth.
And when you look at the current data right now, this whole mass unemployment thing isn't quite happening yet. A recent Yale budget study showed no meaningful rise in unemployment across AI-exposed occupations. And as OpenAI CEO Sam Altman points out, much of the panic we are seeing is actually just AI washing. He basically says companies are blaming AI for layoffs that would have occurred anyway. AI is simply the scapegoat. They're using this shiny new tech as a super convenient excuse to mask standard corporate cuts, just to make their moves sound more forward-thinking to their investors.
All right, moving to our final part. Section 4, Steps to Protect Your Finances, the Blueprint for Adaptation.
So, what does all this actually mean for your wallet? We've got two wildly different possibilities here: perfect doomsday versus infinite abundance. How do we synthesize these extremes into reality for everyday life? Well, here's a really simple, practical 5-step blueprint to protect your personal finances. First up, diversify your income. If 100% of your money comes from repetitive white-collar tasks, start branching out. Second, learn and use AI tools immediately. You absolutely want to make AI work for you before it becomes your direct competition. Third, keep investing and dollar-cost averaging into diversified sectors. Don't go making risky bets on margin. Fourth, build a rock-solid 6-month emergency fund, just so you have a buffer against any sudden industry shifts.
I really want to focus on step 5 here. Do not panic sell. Seriously. Despite the terrifying predictions in the Doomsday paper, panic selling everything because of a scary article has historically been the worst possible move you could make. Just look at the major market panic events: 1987, 2001, 2008, and 2020. The people who sold everything out of pure fear during those specific years ended up completely missing out on years of subsequent massive market profits. The market has survived literally every technological revolution in history, and it will survive this one.
You know, even the original Doomsday paper makes this surprising conclusion: the canary is still alive. Meaning, hey, our job isn't to panic. We don't need to assume the sky is falling tomorrow. Our job is to pay really close attention to the shifting market, optimize our spending where we can, and build our personal financial plans ahead of time so we are fully prepared no matter which direction the wind ends up blowing.
So, this leaves us with one absolutely vital question to ask yourselves as we look toward the future. The technology is here, folks. It is changing the landscape right in front of us. So, are you actively adapting to make AI work for you, or are you just sitting back and waiting to compete against it? I really hope this explainer gave you some incredible insights to help you answer that very question for yourself. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll see you in the next one.